Hey guys, it's Jackie from Jack Gets Lost on a Book Hole. So I participated in Readathon this month. Unfortunately, it did not go that well, and I think that's partly my fault because I kind of got into it really in the middle of the month, and because I've been utilizing my library a lot more. So I've been bringing home like four or three books, and they're not quick reads. So I had a lot of and I made the mistake of not including it in the readathon. It didn't meet any of the criteria, any of the challenges, I don't think. But I did finally finish one of those books, which is which is The Lost Island by Preston and Child. I don't remember their first names, but it's a Gideon Crew novel and a bit of an adventure story. It's kind of like the Dan Brown novels, like where you mix history with a treasure hunt kind of storyline. It was very entertaining, but I'll talk about that later. So, like I said, Readathon did not go as planned, but I did read at least some books, and I got 3 at least finished. Unfortunately, 2 of them I no longer have in my possession because it was my chance to go to donate it to our bookshop in town. And today is the only day that's going to be not raining. And because I don't drive, so it's better to go on nice weather days. So I finally took those. Well, actually, one of them I do have. I could go grab it, but of course now I already started filming, so I can't grab it. So it's too late to share the one story. Unless I don't remember if all of it. No, I think I finished that before I started doing the readathon. Okay, so I'll talk about that one first. It was The Rosie Project, by Graham. I can't remember his last name. It's on Goodreads. Graham his first name is Graeme. I might post the link if you guys are interested, if you guys like the sound of the book. But it meets the challenge of one of the letters in the term TBR. It starts with an R, not counting the. One part of the rules was you can't count the in challenges involving a letter. But it did count its R, and it was also I don't know if it was a red cover or a yellow cover, and then red or yellow, whichever was not the color of the cover between red and yellow was the title, the coloring of the title. So it also matched the challenge of a brightly colored book. The Rosie Project, it was a romantic comedy, a rom-com, a contemporary rom-com. Well, all rom-coms are contemporary. About this professor who has Asperger's, which is basically a level of it's on the autism spectrum. It's like high-functioning version of autism, where you can function in society normally, and it's not as hard for you. You just struggle with acting like, you just struggle with socializing, and you have a very logical mindset, and you take everything literally. You can't tell the difference when someone is joking or being sarcastic. It's stuff like that. And this guy, Professor Don Tillman, he's a professor of genetics. He is told by an elderly female friend that he would make a great husband because he can cook. He's very nice and neat and clean, and he would never cheat on her. And he's a generally good guy, and he's very smart. So he decides to set out on a project to find the perfect wife. She can't smoke. She can't be a smoker. She has to be She is a moderate. She can be a moderate drinker. She's a non-smoker. He doesn't non-vegetarian. She's She's something, and he's checking her physical appearance, her weight, he makes sure she's a punctual person, not late. All this very particular criteria. And of course, none of the candidates he interviews and goes on dates with, and even does speed dating at one point, they don't fit the criteria at all. And then his friend, another professor who's a bit of a player, he's a married man, but he's definitely, him and his wife have a very open marriage. He throws in kind of a curveball for him by introducing him to this woman, Rosie, she's a vegetarian, she's a bit eccentric, she smokes, she is unsuitable according to his criteria. But she has her own project. She is looking for her biological father, because her mother was a bit promiscuous and had unprotected sex, and resulting in Rosie's birth. So he decides to help her track down this guy because he's a geneticist, so he knows how to do DNA testing. And he goes to goes through all this crazy stuff to get DNA samples from the various potential candidates. And without realizing, he starts to fall for her. But of course, she is unsuitable. She does not meet the standard of the perfect wife in his opinion. And she kind of pushes him trying to be, I'm trying to put this delicately because, being a person with disabilities myself, I do, understand how important it is not to describe something like Asperger's or autism as something like something's wrong with you, because nothing is wrong with you. You think differently when you have, and which is Dawn's. He thinks differently than most people, and she tries to kind of push him and help him to adapt to society, without changing his way of thinking, essentially. And it's cute. It's a very fun, cute little story, and what I liked about it was that the protagonist had Asperger's, which is not typical of these kind of stories. I mean, you might have the eccentric, love interest, while the protagonist is more like straight-laced and serious and needs to line up a little bit. But I mean, most of the other characters were a bit cliche. But it was, like I said, it was a very fun, entertaining book. And if you are interested, like I said, it's called The Rosie Project, and like I said, I no longer have it, so I will post the link, the Goodreads link to the book on this video when I'm done with it. And I also read one of the other books I finished was The Raven Boys. I finally finished this book, and luckily for me, it's another R book. It starts with R, so in the title, so this was totally awesome. And I was very pleased with that, because I was looking for an excuse to read it, but I still wanted to participate and read a thing, and luckily it worked. And if you don't know about this, I'm sorry, I'm not very good at explaining books, so I'm not gonna just, let's see, okay, so the story centers around these 4 boys that go to this very prestigious, rich prep school type, and then this girl, Blue Sergeant, who is from a family of sidekicks. And she runs into these boys, and, rewind. And she is told, receives a psychic message that the next boy she kisses will be her true love, and she will kill him when she kisses him. And, her mom has reason to suspect that the Raven Boys might be connected to that one of them might be her true love. So, her mom's kind of warning her to stay away from these boys. But she ends up getting involved with them anyway, because she's kind of drawn to them, and they're unique. They're 4 different individual personalities, especially like Gansey and Adam. which, if I'm looking at this right, I think this one's supposed to be Gansey, and this one's supposed to be Adam. I think. She's like she starts and she helps the boys who are looking for this mythical king known as Glendower, who, once you find him, you find his grave and find him, then he will grant you one wish. And she's helping them find this king. That's basically it. Like I said, the little there is a bit I think there's a bit of a hint of a love triangle, but it's not as prominent. And the whole kissing your true love thing isn't really, it's a subplot, I feel like. It's not a major plot. Of course, I have not read the other books yet. I've only read this one. I really enjoyed this book. I love the Maggie Stiefvater's writing style. Now, I don't know if I would like her other series, The Wolves of Mercy Falls, as much, because it's more of a typical paranormal urban fantasy with, the girl, by the sound of it, to be fair, I haven't really looked at the book. I've seen it, but I've never actually, read the back or really looked at it. But the impression I've gotten about the book is, it's paranormal fantasy, girl falls for a mysterious, sexy, immortal wolf guy, and, something, of course, happens, they're destined, and it's a Romeo and Juliet kind of thing. But, again, to be fair, I have not really looked at the book. I am just guessing from what I heard, so I can't really judge that series fairly. And I don't know if I'm interested in that. But I did like her writing style, and I like this book. And I look forward to reading The Dream Thieves, which I will read starting tomorrow. I might not read it tomorrow, because I think tomorrow is the 1st. I don't know. Either tomorrow or... Wait, no, it's not tomorrow. Friday's the 1st, because I will start if whatever's going on with my job, getting me into the system and everything, if that goes through, then I will start on the 2nd of September, which is Saturday. That will be my first day, so I know for a fact that Friday is the 1st of September. So there are 31 days in August. I don't know if I'll actually start The Dream Thieves on the 1st, but I definitely am planning to read it during September, because I decided to make September my sequels month, along with reading books that have to do kind of with the literature type books as well. I'm reading a couple literature classic type books, books we read for school and stuff, because it just seems right. September sequel, September both starts with S's, and it also makes sense to read books the literature books you might have read during the school year. It seems right. It seems like a perfect theme. So this is so I finished this one. And then I also, for a diverse read, I read The Namesake, which is basically about an Indian American family living in America. It's an Indian couple who came to America as younger people when they just got married, and they have kids who are born in America. But, if you know about, of course, India is a very different culture to America. And it's they have different customs and different beliefs. And it's just about how it's very hard for the couple dealing with, the differences between America and their own culture, and adapting to American culture as well, and their kids who are raised in America, and how their family, their heritage kind of haunts them in a way, when they have parties for the kids, it turns into this big celebration. They have the parties where they invite the kids and the kids' friends, but it's also an excuse for their parents to invite all their Indian American friends over. So I think that's kind of like, for their children, it's kind of a burden and annoying to them, because it's supposed to be about them, and it's just another excuse for their parents to have a party. And then there's the kids both have two names. They have the name that is the right name and the proper name for them, and then they have not a nickname. Like, they explain it in the book, like, that they have two names. So like I said, that was my diverse read. I really liked. I kind of like stories about like the Indian culture, and how the difference is between that culture and our culture, and how they do things, and how how they dress and wear things, and just in comparing the two cultures. Like, I've seen like the movie Bride and Prejudice, which is a movie is a Pride and Prejudice make. It's like but the woman who's kind of like the Elizabeth character, she's Indian, and the guy's American. So it's like the same story, but with a little spin of the Indian culture in it. But I really like those kind of stories. I thought it was really great. A really great story. My only little problem with it was the way the book was set up. The chapters were very long. Even though it looked like it wasn't that long, it wasn't like, like a Game of Thrones size, but it still felt kind of long because the chapters were so long. So I always have mixed feelings about short chapters and long chapters. Like, I get the appeal of long chapters, but at the same time, it's or let me rephrase that. I get the appeal of short chapters, and I really love short chapters, but at the same time, I like long chapters. But then long chapters, especially if it's a library book that I'm going to have to return in 2 weeks. Except for the namesake was my own book. It wasn't a library book. It was my own book. But I still found myself flipping through the pages and seeing how long it was to the next chapter. Because, there are times throughout the day that you have to stop reading, like, to do chores, like to help with dinner or help with breakfast. Or, like, if because since I don't drive, my only way to get out of the house oftentimes is riding to run errands with my parents. Or we have a community pool, so we would go to the pool, and so sometimes I would have to stop reading, and I do not like stopping at a random point in the book. I have to stop at a breaking point in the story, or like at the end of a chapter. I have this pet peeve about I have to stop. I can't stop in the middle of my reading. It has to be like either a breaking point in that section of the story, or it has to be the end of the chapter. Then I can stop. But if it's not that, well then. So that was my diverse read. And now I tried to read. I also tried to. I also read The Host, which was a library book. Which originally I wasn't counting, but then I realized that I could technically count it as a book from a genre that I think one of the challenges was a book from a genre you don't normally read. And I'm not a huge science fiction fan. I mean, I've read some science fiction. Like, I love the Lunar Chronicles. I just read Jurassic Park a couple months ago, which is really cool. I'm getting into Michael Crichton a little bit. I read his book Timeline a while back, like years ago. And then I've seen the Jurassic Park movie, so I figured I should read the book. And my dad, unfortunately, does not have it, because he is a Michael Crichton fan, but he only has some of his books. Like, he has the book Prey. Prey is in Prey, Prey is in, your enemy, something you're trying to hunt. And then he might have some other ones. So, but I decided if I'm correct in what I assume is one of the challenges. I'll include The Host, which is a sci-fi book. If you don't know what the Host is about, it's about an alien invasion. Except for the aliens, their intention is not to kill us or eradicate us, or at least in the way that most traditional. A lot of alien movies show the aliens as more like to just make us more peaceful by controlling us, and there lies the problem, is they want to take away our free will. But these aliens are actually kind of peaceful. They don't like our violent nature, so they're trying to help us and help us become less violent and less animalistic. So one of the aliens, Wanderer, she takes over Melanie Strider's body, but Melanie is a fighter, so she does not let Wanderer take her control. And Wanderer starts to try to get access to Melanie's memories, ignoring the fact that Melanie's still in there and providing sarcastic commentary. But the memories are of Melanie's hope-to-be boyfriend, Jared. Unfortunately, Melanie's only 17 and he's in his 20s. Although by now, in the present of the story, she might be like 18 or older by that point. So she hopes he'll be her boyfriend. But he's like, oh, I'm too old for you, and you need to at least wait until you're 18. Well, anyway, the memories are of him and Melanie's brother Jamie, who's a teenager himself, and Wanderer starts to get kind of attached and feel the emotions of those memories, and starts developing feelings for Jared and Jamie, which in turn, Melanie is able to form an alliance with Wanderer, and they go into the desert where Jared and Jamie and if there are any more humans, might be hiding. Because there's like her uncle Jem, who's a little eccentric. He created this map to find the secret location in the desert. So they escape, and after trekking through the desert for several days and almost dying, Uncle Jeb and some other humans find her, but Jeb believes that there might be something more to Wanderer, and decides to take her, spare her life. But the other humans decide to keep her prisoner. And of course, Jared is really pissed off because Wanderer has taken over the woman he loves, because he loves Melanie. He's just all like, I'm too, it's not, you need to wait until you're legally of age for us to really be together. But then Jamie finds out from Wanderer that Melanie's still alive in there. And then she also forms and not only does Jeb figure it out, but she also forms kind of a relationship with Ian, another one of the humans, and he starts to like Wanderer. But of course, Wanderer is not fully accepted by the humans, because she's still not human, and her people, her kind, still took over the human race. So Jared doesn't really trust her still, and neither do the other humans, and unfortunately there's also the problem that, the Seeker, who are the law keepers of the souls, her, Wanderer's kind, is hunting Wanderer. So they have to worry about that. It's a very interesting story, and it's a very unique spin on the whole alien storyline, and it talks about the themes of what makes us human, what defines someone as human. It doesn't just focus on the romantic relationship, it focuses on the relationships with all the other humans Wanderer gets close to, Wanderer's developing relationship with Melanie, and how the two of them become so close they're like sisters, and her relationship with Jamie, and it's such an interesting take. It's very light and a very beautiful story about, like I said, about what makes us human. It is YA, and unfortunately it's also by Twilight author Stephenie Meyer. And I know I decided to save that for last, because I know when it first came out, I mean, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure that when it first came out, it was like, oh, this is by Stephenie Meyer, the same author who wrote Twilight. I have no interest in it. But trust me, you need to give it a chance. It is a good book. It is an improvement. Now, I don't know about her other book, The Chemist. So, I don't know if that's an improvement even better than The Host. Or maybe it's the same as The Host or not. But I definitely believe The Host is an improvement. Now, it does have the mentality of the whole idea of that macho idea of I'm the man, I tell you what to do. You listen to me. But Melody and Wonder, I believe they both have their own, they know who they are. They don't let a man tell them what to do. They're both very strong, but in very different ways, which is good, because they balance each other out. Like, Melody is very feisty and aggressive, kind of a tomboy. She's a fighter. And Wonder is someone who she knows her beliefs and knows her convictions, knows what she wants. And no, she's not exactly feisty or aggressive or anything, but she knows how she feels. She has a good idea of who she is. So that's another improvement. They are improvement from Bella Swan, who I agree is not the best lead character. She's not she's not the best example. And no, she's not an everyday girl, okay? I mean, maybe there are girls like that in the world, but if that's the case, she's a bad example of an everyday girl. I'm not saying she has to be tough or tomboy or, Miss Sexy Badass. I'm just saying that she needs to be a little less pushy, a little less of a pushover, and a little less of damsel in distress. And a little less, and not let those two boys in the story get away with what they get away with her. I mean, I admit I still kind of like Twilight. I still have a soft spot because it was I read it after Harry Potter, and it was one of the next major series I got into. Okay, I'll be right back. Sorry, I wanted to close my door. Oh, by the way, I don't know if you have a Books A Million, I am sure you've seen this t-shirt before. I am simply a book drunkard. I'm wearing this t-shirt, and today I actually went to both our bookshop in town and the library. Okay, so yeah, I finished that one. So I guess I could kind of count that to be one of the challenges. I think, if I'm right in recalling that one of the challenges was read a genre you don't normally read. So I don't read a lot of sci-fi. Okay, so these last three books, I kind of just started them, but I didn't finish them because, like I said, I had library books to read too. So I got. Okay, so this one meets the challenge Peter Pan. It meets, unfortunately, I only read the first chapter in the first novella, so I didn't get very far. But I chose this one because it meets the challenge of reading a book that has that either the title or the author's name starts with the same first letter as your name. So, Peter, obviously Peter, the P is, my name is Jackie, so P doesn't work, but this author Barry's first name is James, so J.M. Barrie, so that's, okay, and like I said, I only got to, first chapter of the first novella, which is basically an introduction of the characters. Meet the Darlings, and they talk about how they discovered Peter and everything. But that's basically, so I really don't have a lot to talk about. But I had been wanting to reread this for a second time because Murphy Napier, I think that's how you say her name, she's been reading classics, and this was one of the classics that she read, so I have been wanting to reread it, and this is a perfect excuse. Unfortunately, like I said, I didn't get very far in it. Okay, next, okay, I have these two books. My birthstone is green, emerald green, and one of the challenges was to read a book that was the color of your birthstone. Which, unfortunately, this is a lot closer, I think, to emerald green than this one. But I figured this one would be a little bit easier and not take as long. And it's Stephen King, so I've been trying to read more Stephen King. But I didn't get very far. I think this is like one of his first books. I mean, you can kind of tell by the writing style that it's very early. It's very early work. I just got a notification from Messenger on Facebook from someone that is kind of annoying me right now. So I didn't get very far. I got to page like 26. It has, my only problem with it is, even though it's kind of quick, it's like all Stephen King's novels, the chapters are, the little chapters are really short. But in this book, I feel like it's very much, so far it's kind of mostly done a lot of explaining of things. A lot of telling, not a lot of showing. But, I mean, I haven't got very far, so I'm sure I'll get better. But this came out, what's the copyright date? This is a library book, actually, I think. I mean, it's not a library, I think my dad bought it at the library and gave it to me. Because I was looking at it, and he's like, do you want it? See, what is the copyright? Copyright date is, again, 1974. I mean, 1947. Or, oh no, first published in 1987. So, I don't know if that, so, by the time, it seems like one of his early works. It's very interesting. It's more fantasy than horror. Because, he does like writing fantasy too, which I'm very happy about. And I also started reading Voyager. Like I said, this is probably closer to Emerald, the color Emerald, the stone Emerald, than this one. So I think Emerald's a little darker. And I didn't get very far in this book. That's like chapter 4, part 2. And that's, believe me, that's not very far. In case you don't know, this is the third book. Let's see if there's a. Let's see. Yeah, this is the third book in the series Outlander. It's basically about this woman from the 40s who goes back. This married woman who's a nurse. She was a nurse in World War II. She's married. She goes back to the 1700s. She's British, so and unfortunately it was during the time, the war between Scotland and England, when the Scottish were still trying to gain independence. Fortunately, they still have not succeeded at that. But, I mean, like, with what we went through, I can understand. It does take a long time to fully gain independence. And she, to protect herself from the English soldiers, and this guy, Jack Randall, who's a really bad guy, she marries the Scottish Highlander, Jamie Fraser, who's much younger than her, but the two end up falling in love, and it's basically about their relationship and her journey in the 1700s. And then I haven't gone very far, but because I've already read the first two books, it will definitely not be hard for me to keep going with this book. This is actually my cousin Allie's first copy of the book. But she did buy a new copy and gave me this one. I was just gonna borrow it originally, but then we went to, when she came to visit us here, we took her to this country bookstore in a town, the next town over, and she decided to buy her own copy of the book, a much nicer copy, because, you know, this is weathered over the years, and she let me keep this one. Okay, so those are the books. Okay, so next I wanted to do a little book haul. Okay, actually, you know what? I'll do another video after this one, because of course I like to talk, so these videos are super long. Of course, I might have to film this again, so it won't matter. So I will just do another video and show you the books I've got recently. Alright. Bye, you guys.